a slow glowing dream that your fear seems to hide deep inside your mind all alone.
Will you tell me when it's on? I can't tell.
Go ahead.
Oh, yes. Okay. Good evening. The Design Review Board public meeting of March 12th, 2015 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones at this time. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards by the table at the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current Design Review Board agendas are available online at our website at www.glendaleca.gov. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and Design Review Board appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that all appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days of today's Design Review Board date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his or her discretion. In terms of a roll call, Board Member Malikian.
Here.
Board Member Palmer. Here. Board Member Simonian.
Present.
Chair Mardian.
Here.
And Board Member Charchian is absent this evening. Next would be the report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on March 4th, 2015. Next up would be oral communications. I have no oral communication cards.
I don't see any.
None have been submitted. I don't believe there are any staff announcements this evening. And we have 2 cases on tonight's agenda. So at this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Chairman Mardian.
Thank you, Vilya. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Kathy Duarte for 1045 Linden Avenue.
Board members. The property at 1045 Linden Avenue, you can see from this map, is located south of Glen Oaks Avenue and north of San Fernando Road. Is located in our 2250 multifamily residential zone, and it is located on the west side of Linden Avenue. If you look up here at the existing site plan, there's an existing approximately 900 square foot single-story Tudor-style home at the front of the property. The driveway goes back. There's an existing garage, a one-car garage, existing orange tree, and then an existing rec room at the very rear of the property. The applicant is proposing, if we look here, to, they're going to demolish the existing garage, the orange tree, and the existing rec room. So at the front of the property with the existing one-story per code requirements, they will be adding a new 2-car garage. And then at the rear of the property, they're proposing a new 2-story, 2,276 square foot unit at the rear with a 3-car garage that fronts the alley. Access to the front would be on Linden here for the front of property with the driveway going along the side. They are meeting all the current zoning code requirements. They have the common open space located in between the two units, and each unit will have a private patio. Let's see, that's in terms of us. So I mentioned that the property is located in the R22 50 multi-residential zone. Most of the surrounding properties are also zoned R2250. Sorry. The landscaping will meet code requirements. They're proposing approximately 30% of the lot be landscaped, where 25% is required. There's an existing wall along the west side of the property. They're proposing to demolish, there's an existing chain link fence. They're proposing to remove that and add a concrete masonry wall. Staff is proposing that, because they're proposing that it be stuccoed on the one side, and staff is proposing that it be concrete on the other side, facing the neighbor.
Say concrete, I'm sorry, when you say concrete, meaning it's a masonry wall, so exposed masonry.
Our typical request there is to use the split-face block. We thought split-face wasn't as appropriate on the side facing the subject property, so they would stucco that face, and then the split-face, which we can't paint, would be a nice finish for the neighbor.
So it'll be split-faced against
Facing the neighbor.
Okay, moving over this way, we have the proposed floor plan for the existing house here, and with the elevation drawings here. So you can see they're adding on the garage over here. And then these are the floor plans for the rear unit here with the elevation drawing here. As you can see, the styles are a little bit different. And while the Tudor style is different from that of the proposed unit, we feel it would be difficult to design a compact two-story unit that references earlier style without overwhelming the adjacent neighbors. And the height of the new unit is actually lower than the existing unit, so it should be hidden behind it. Also, the inverted roof angles of the new unit can be seen as a playful take on the Tudor roof forms. And in addition, there are a number of 2- and 3-story multifamily dwellings in the immediate vicinity, including a 2-story structure directly to the east of the property. In terms of the architectural concept, you can see that, as I mentioned, that it's a contemporary style unit at the rear with 3 singles, different varying roof slopes. The protecting or seating volumes, along with patio walls and balconies, provide articulation in all facades, helping break up the overall scale and sense of mass. The strong break of materials between the first and second levels. We have the wood here. Also helps break up the massing. The architectural expression of the building is further supported by a variety of materials such as stucco, aluminum, wood siding, and cable railing with steel posts and a wood cap. The air conditioning and rooftop equipment will be completely screened on the new unit. So, as I mentioned, there are a variety of finishes and colors, the different surfaces. There's a cream color, smooth stucco, and dark wood siding as the predominant wall materials. All windows proposed in the unit are recessed block frame, anodized bronze aluminum windows with the combination of fixed and sliding. The proposed doors vary in material from solid wood with decorative glass for the main entry to the rear unit and on an anodized bronze aluminum siding glass to the first floor patio in the unit. The paved areas will be, all the existing driveway will be repaved with this new paving pattern to match both units. That's my presentation. If you have any questions or if you want me to go over the conditions.
Is the trash area enclosed in the back there?
I believe it's behind the fence.
It looks like it's open as well.
Is it behind? Where? Of the trash area?
Yeah, right adjacent to the garage.
To the right of the garage.
Right. Maybe he could answer that. I'm not. It doesn't.
Is that the only location for that garage area? With unit 2?
I think so.
And the other question, that wall that they're proposing only goes to the front of the rear unit?
I believe it ends here.
And what are they doing with the little 20-inch wall that's along the side now that goes partway from the front street? Side, there's, it's not showing there. But
It's not showing up.
But there is a
Maybe
wall.
he could address that.
Any questions?
I do. So I'm trying to understand, it says new unit, 2-story, 2,276 square feet. Then on the side, it describes as proposed total floor area of 3,185. So that I'm assuming that he's adding the existing and the new and all that. But my question is, was the 3 parking garage a requirement by the city or their requirement?
It is a requirement
Based on what?
because it's in the multifamily zone based on the number of bedrooms.
So based on number of bedrooms they need to have, okay.
The 3.
Then the 727 square feet for new unit garage, that's not like the residential where you're going over a certain number and you get added onto the floor area, right? Or is it just,
Correct,
Okay.
because it's required parking.
okay,
It's not livable floor area.
okay.
Yeah,
So,
but it's included in the calculation of the floor area when
No,
it's
it's
surface
not.
park.
where is it?
I think usually when you have a garage, it's on own grade, the garage area goes into the floor area ratio, but I don't think
Oh, well, no, it goes into lot coverage, not in the floor area.
that does go into floor area ratio because it's on grade. It's part of the, based on what I understand. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any more questions, Mr. Ward?
No, that's it, thank you.
Mr. Simonian?
No, I'll have more questions for the designer.
I have a question. What's the required distance between the buildings?
I believe he met the multifamily setback areas, so the 5 foot.
I'm talking
8
about the distance between two
Oh.
separate buildings. I recall it's 12, but I'm looking at the calculations.
It says
on-
12.
Yeah, it says 12.
Correct. The minimum distance between 2 detached units on a multifamily residential zone is 12.
But on sheet A2, based on his calculation, I see 10 to 11. Is that there's an overhang on the building? I'm just trying to clarify that.
Sheet A2 on the ground floor site plan shows
Upper
12
floor
feet.
site plan. In between the building, there's a 10, 11, then there's a 210.
I see 12.
And I'm looking at upper floor site plan. Maybe we can,
I think it's the old,
Could be the, that doesn't look correct based on the floor plans. There's no stepping.
but I'm looking at the elevation. It
oh,
seems
second
like-
floor, there you go.
Yeah.
Second floor, you have a 2 foot
The
10
elevations.
balcony, and the building projects out. on the side.
projects out. But we can answer, we can clarify that. I just wanted to see what the minimum was. But
Even without the balcony, it's still out there.
And to answer your previous question regarding the 700-foot garage space, that application is, well, that only...
For residential.
It only applies for single-family residential. It does not apply for multifamily
Mr. Mardian was
residential.
asking about the floor area because what
Correct.
he's saying that the entire parking, because it's enclosed, it gets counted towards the floor area?
It counts part of the floor area, to my understanding. But I don't think in this case he's reaching that, because on
Not
another...
for this lot.
Not for his lot.
Yeah, no.
He's not reaching it.
Not even close.
But it goes part. There's no more questions. I'll open the public hearing. I'm going to go to the applicant, Hamlet Sadikian. Please state your name for the record and address.
Good evening, board members. My name is Hamlet Sudekian, 1045 Linden Avenue, 91201. I'm the owner and designer of the project. Thank you for the in-depth presentation, Kathy. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Jay Platt and Mr. Brad Collin and the design studio staff. They've been working with us for about 14, 15 months now, refining this design. To give a little bit of background on the design, we started the design about a little over 3 years ago, and we started working with Ms. Stephanie Reich. The original designs were more traditional Tudor-style designs, and Ms. Reich suggested that we go in a different direction and do something more contemporary. So we went with the contemporary design. We took the angle of the existing roof and took the inverse angle to get those the roof slope that we currently have, which defines, which is very distinct as when you look at the silhouette of the building. So we did start, and then we incorporated all the same materials that we had in the existing house. The stock was going to be matching the existing house. The 10-unit apartment that we have next to the building also match. It's very close. The color is almost the same. So we're going to use that same stucco. As far as the roofing, we're going to use the same roof material as the existing house. And we also adopted the siding from the building next door. We're going to take the same or similar siding and do various bands of brown color and have that stained and sealed. The rest of the materials are going to be painted to match the windows. The windows are going to be aluminum. We're going to have the anodized bronze aluminum windows. And everything else is going to be painted to match that. All the trims, downspouts, gutters. The new two-car garage for the existing unit, everything's going to match the existing house with the clipped gables and the same roof slopes. Windows, everything's going to match. We are required to have the two-car garage for the existing unit, and we are required to have the three-car garage for the new unit because we have more than 2 bedrooms. We had the 20-foot by 20-foot garage, which is the requirement for the regular 2-bedroom units, plus another 12 feet for the third garage space. That is all. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'll be open to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sadikian. Any questions?
I have 3 questions. Can you answer the question I asked earlier about the trash? Is that going to be enclosed?
The trash is not required to be enclosed. If I'm not
I'm asking you
mistaken.
if it's going to be.
We are not going to enclose it now.
Okay.
Although we do have landscaping there that's supposed to screen that.
Second question, is that little wall in the front off the street on the left side of the driveway, is that going to remain, the little 20?
That's actually on the neighbor's.
Oh, that's the neighbors?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And in looking at I was over there yesterday, how you get out of the garage without making 3 turns to come out of the driveway? It appears that patio, as you back out, you've got to move 3 times.
Right. I mean, right now we just back out. That's the existing condition is that we just
So
back
you don't
out.
use a garage.
But I mean, everything is as far as the backup space. The 26 feet, I believe, is there.
Oh, I understand that. It's
25,
just
right.
an awkward position.
Right. And there's really nothing we can do about that turning radius.
Could take away that little patio.
The patio,
That's where the corner becomes an issue.
the existing patio.
Part of the private space
That's-
required for the house.
we're required to have.
50 square feet.
It could be smaller, yeah.
I'm just saying that corner doesn't allow you to get out.
Sure.
Just a question.
We can.
That's all the questions I have.
On the same note, on the trash area, where's the front unit trash area?
It's all supposed to be just one.
Just one. So how do you access the trash area from the front unit to the back? Do you
We have
go
a walkway
on the side, so you got to go to the alley, then come in into the...
Exactly.
But you propose landscaping in that area, and if I have these trash bins, I'm going to roll them, what happens to my landscape area? There's no designated path for that particular trash area.
There is a concrete path along the left side of the property coming up from the driveway.
But when I come back to the other side where the trash is designated, it's all landscape based on the landscape plan.
Oh, I see.
We need, something's got to happen there.
Absolutely. We can make a part of it paved so that.
On the landscape plan, landscape is where the trash is, because you can't put the trash in the right away.
Yeah, so,
It's just, they have it reversed.
I don't know if this is just a different project that was proposed, and I'm looking at the landscape plan. You call out the front unit having the second-story addition to it. Is that something that was done in the past?
No.
New two-car garage plus new gym room on the second floor.
That was one of the original designs that we cycled through.
Okay. The AC unit, I'm sorry, Mr. Seymour, did you have a question?
I did.
Okay.
But go ahead. I'm still formulating my questions.
The AC unit, it seems like it's enclosed with siding and so forth.
Right.
But typically, is this a package unit? Or
It is a package.
It is a package unit. So typically, you need some, space around it. Have you thought of doing a split system on the AC and having the furnace somewhere in the attic? I see you have some attic area there. And locate the condenser somewhere in the side yard?
The attic, we really don't have much attic space. Most of it is just vaulted ceilings on the second floor.
But in the middle portion where your middle element is,
in the middle,
the section that I noticed that there's some space that maybe possibly...
I think it's just 2 feet space there. So. And we did that to keep the roof plane low now.
Where is the AC condenser?
It's right in the middle. The AC package unit is right in the middle of the roof there.
On the roof? Oh, is that number 4?
Yeah.
I see.
That's all my questions for now. Mr. Simonian, go ahead.
You mentioned that this is you're the owner and also the designer.
Correct.
Is the rear unit going to be your unit?
Yes, we are planning on using it as our unit.
I see. So a couple of questions on that note. I noticed that some of the color elevations, some of the windows, especially kind of where these, like this window is supposed to be in this bathroom area, I would imagine that these windows are really going to be high windows like that. Have these been amended at some point? Is this like an older version?
No, I think we are going to have the windows exactly like they are on the elevation. The ones from the bathroom are going to be frosted too.
So in essence, they're going to fall more or less where the toilet is right now, the lower
Correct.
window. I see. And then also in this rear elevation facing the alley, there's an abundance of windows. Is there a specific reason for all these kind of square punch-outs?
There's accents that accentuated the design, and we went back and forth several times refining the design. But we definitely used the clear story windows to show the heightened space, the vaulted space inside. So.
And are they all going to be clear windows, or are some frosted?
The ones in the bathrooms are definitely going to be frosted.
But besides that, everything else is?
Everything else is going to be clear, yes.
Okay, and then, insofar as your bedrooms are concerned, let's say these, of course, they're looking onto a multifamily.
Correct.
have you considered what they're looking into? with all those
Absolutely.
windows?
I actually have a diagram here that shows the neighboring building and what windows match with which of the neighboring buildings. And the neighboring building is actually about 6 or 7 feet higher because they have a subterranean garage or a semi-subterranean garage. So our building sits right in between their windows. Our second story sits right in between their windows. I can pass this on.
Sure.
If you'd like. The ones in orange show the building as well as in green are our windows, and we made sure that nothing was looking directly into.
I see. So if we're looking out from your unit onto the adjacent property, we would see those orange windows. Got it.
And as far as the setback, it is a 12-foot setback
12-foot,
separation from building to building. The 10-foot 11, I think, was we had an overhang on the not the existing, but the proposed two-car garage for the existing unit that was overhanging a little bit there. So
I have another quick question.
Sure, go ahead.
And so you mentioned that you've been, you started out with Ms. Reich some time ago.
I think it was 3.5 years ago.
Long time.
Yes.
It's been a long time in the making.
Yes, it's definitely been. Yeah.
And your original concept, was it more of a traditional concept you had mentioned?
It was a Tudor style. It was a Tudor style design, and it was humongous. It was just too big. And we came back and we refined it to a more contemporary design. And I think we came back with Mr. Platt, and we actually lowered the roof shapes. The lowest point is actually 7 feet, and we made those parts a closet on the interior, so that on the edge, on the higher parts, they're not too high.
Your preference to go with the more contemporary or traditional?
It actually, I would prefer them contemporary. That's
All right. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you.
Just a couple of questions. Can you elaborate on this inverse angle that you started talking about? What is that?
absolutely. We took the angle of the existing roof and we just did a 90-degree turn, and that was our original roof angle, and then we kind of slightly.
It's not quite the same slope. It's a little
it's
shallower.
not, yeah, it's a pretty steep slope on the existing house. And one more thing I should add, that the new unit is actually lower at the highest point, is lower than the peak of the roof of the existing unit. And it's definitely lower than the two-story building next door to the east.
So some of these, like windows, like Mr. When Art suggested that about the windows and some of these headroom heights. Have you looked at these, and have you addressed these in any way that like for example, the 7-foot one that you're showing on the studio, and you have a door right along that wall. 7-foot one is not an allowed height in a habitable room.
No, and we have closet.
Well, there's no closet there. So if you look at your section and look at that, you have a 7-foot one. So I'm just wondering, certain elevations there and certain and
In other words, the plan is not indicating a closet, doesn't show, the plan doesn't show a closet.
well, it's not showing the closet, but he's actually showing the door that is coming in here. So if you look at the section through here, so this point, which is here, is 7-foot one.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, is that going to affect the angle of these, arbitrary angle? And then, like Mr. Simeon, you said about the window, that window is right behind the water closet. So I'm just wondering, have you kind of looked at this in code-wise and understand, because these things are going to start coming into play, and certain things that are going to be out of your control is going to be more dictated by the building and safety.
Right, but I do believe 7 feet is the lowest point we can go.
7'6" is the minimum habitable height. But
We can definitely just slightly.
Well, I'm just wondering, because some of these, I mean, I'm looking at the design of the project, and it has some symmetry in certain portions of the house or the structure, and then you have, it's kind of changing as it comes around. The symmetry goes away, and you start adding certain details there that it's not carried through all around. So I'm just wondering, have you gone through this in a code sense in the building and safe? So it's not really after you're done with this, after you have a whole review of these drawings, it's not going to really impact the design, whatever we come up with at the end. Have you done that? So you feel comfortable with what you have?
Right. And I mean, we've been going back and forth with.
Well, I'm not talking about planning. I'm talking about more of a building and safety.
As with every project, if it goes through plan check and there are changes that are going to affect the design, it's brought back to us, we review it. If we deem it kind of a minor change, we can approve it at staff level. If it's too big of a change from what you've approved, we'll bring it back to the board.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any other speakers. Thank you, Mr. I don't have any other.
Oh, sorry.
You can.
I forgot to mention something, if I might.
Sure.
Okay, I did receive 4 comments, written emails from
Oh, thank you for reminding me.
in
Yes,
support of
supporting.
this project
Yeah.
this afternoon, which you
You
have
got it.
copies of. And I also
You
received
left them
one,
for us. Thank you.
yeah, one phone call as well in support.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll close the public hearing. I'll start with Mr. Malikian.
Thank you.
Sorry. Open up the day.
So I could very easily say it's probably the first project I've seen in the many, many years that we have an addition to an existing property that are 2 completely separate architectural styles. Usually I don't get into the style of architecture, I'll just leave it up to the applicant, but in this case it's just given to us and say, here it is. You have this very traditional, very thick, the true architecture, and then you're being proposed something completely new. I mean, I wish we had a complete wall in between them so that you have a 2 separate, but we don't. So somehow we have to look at this whole thing as one, being that they're both being presented to us, and especially that we have a garage added onto the front of the unit. So I'll go ahead and comment on the front unit first, and then I'll start in the back, and then I'll just kind of comment on the overall my thoughts. For the front, the couple of the concerns was the trash as it was addressed, so I think we can definitely address that, and then also the turning radius around for the garage. The other thing that I'm a little bit concerned, I'm not that concerned about this because it follows the architecture of the actual existing building. The concern that I have is that the structure that is being added, because it's following the existing roof lines, it's creating this huge mass in front of these spaces that are very close to the other side, the habitable space on the other side of the apartment. So it's basically they're creating a wall in front of it, which it's fine. I don't have an issue with it, but it is following the roof line, so they are following some of these, the profile, I guess you can call it. But technically, it's if it can be somehow massaged or somehow mitigated, I would really like that. But at this moment, the way it's done, it's fine. But that's the only thing that it kind of stood out, and I was a little bit concerned, especially that perspective on the top. You can kind of see how big that structure, that roof line is going to be. So rather than being sensitive and just carrying the existing roof, the lower roof, over to carry for the garage. So that was one concern that I had on the front. Looking at the back, I'm personally fond of modern architecture. I love seeing this, but I also like to see through a design that is throughout and consistent with all the details that are being proposed, which in this case they are doing that. I think all the conditions around the house. I think it's well thought of, all the details are well placed together. But there's certain things that are happening that I'm just wondering, is it really necessary? I mean, is it really necessary to achieve this modern architecture? I mean, I really don't see why, if this is going to be complete two different things, and if it's truly a inverted roof line, then let it be a truly inverted roof line, and you have these roofs that are cutting through the space and becoming this really, morphed architecture that it's really taking the existing roof and creating these very interesting spaces but it's not. It's basically, it's just, convenience of tilting the roof and sloping all the water back into the building space. And for me, it's really not doing anything. And for me, it's, I would be fine with just having a flat roof and playing with just roof lines and just creating this clean, simple, minimal, modern style architecture. Some of these windows, the placements of windows, the proportions of the windows, for me, again, it's questionable. These small little square windows, and the placement of the windows, and I appreciate this, and I think it's really helpful to understand, where they place the windows in relation to the neighboring property. But it's not helping the situation, because now you created a window that is lower and they're up above. They're looking straight down into the space rather than if it was aligned with the same level. I'm torn between the traditional and the modern, and how it's merging into each other. I think, and it's unfortunate it's taken 3 years for them to get here, and unfortunate that person who was dictating the style is no longer here for me to ask some questions from. But I'll just wait until I hear more comments from you guys, so we'll see where this thing is going.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Commissioner Palm?
I'm looking at the existing, or the garage on the front unit, and I think that whole roof is a large mass. I realize it's matching the other, but when you look at the new garage at 90 degrees to it, it's also a very large structure. In the elevation, the top floor above the garage looks taller than the garage, and in the section A8, the garage looks taller than the upper section. So I'm not sure which is correct, but those two units right next to each other being large, a large flat face, basically.
Yeah. And the house is always taller than the garage.
But in the elevation,
A8 is...
That's just one perspective, I think, from the
I'm
street.
just saying
It's, the garage, the house.
it looks large there.
Okay, you won't see the garage from the street.
I know, I'm just saying between the two units.
I see.
I do like the design of that unit by itself. I'm not going to complain about that, but Alan's brought up a lot of points, but I'm going to bring up, when I looked at the landscaping in the driveway area, the driveway that's proposed from the front shows planting along the existing house, but there's no room for it. It's drawn incorrectly here. The driveway is going to come right up to the bay window, and it goes all the way over to the property line. So that whole down the side will just be all driveway. And they probably could have some planting, I don't know. They've shown trees where you have existing trees. I don't think the landscape plan matches the existing site. We've got palm trees in the front that really don't go with the building. And we have the tree and planting in the trash area. So I think that whole landscape plan needs to be addressed as to type of plant material in front of the front porch, taking out trees where we already have trees, and the trash area. And I just wonder if that front porch on the existing house could be redesigned and changed, since it's just a little metal. We're going to have a whole new building, and to fix the front area, repaint it, that maybe that metal awning might be replaced with something a little more attractive. So those are my comments thus far.
Thank you, Commissioner Perlman. Commissioner Samori?
The reason why I asked some of those more personal questions about if you were going to live there and if this was your home, I sensed as though we have a young designer that has been given the opportunity to design his home, and we've all been there as architects and designers, and so it's a special thing to design your own home. It really is. You design something and you learn a lot from it because you live in it all the time. So you live and breathe it, and you will learn a lot from the construction over to how a house is lived and the practicality of how windows are placed and how you access the home, etc. And it's probably one of the most valuable lessons you'll ever learn in your career. And so what I'm sensing is, there's this excitement, and you're trying to pack a lot of things into this house, and so it's refreshing and it's appreciated. And so what we're doing is, I guess, in a humble way, is we're going to share some of our experiences, and so help you to consider some things and to see how it could be a more of an enjoyable place to live, to make it that much more enjoyable. I think some of the square windows that are placed around the facade are creating just too many fenestrations, too many openings. You always want to have quite a bit of windows to allow in light. At the same time, you want to have enough wall space to be able to furnish the interior of a given room. The more windows you have, you end up having a really difficult time furnishing the interior. And that said, you're backing onto a multifamily on one side and an alley on the other side, and another multi-zone property to the other side, which one day could be developed. And so you really want to start considering the location of windows and how your furniture is going to lay out inside it. My initial gut reaction is that we have too many windows kind of along the alley and the side, and some of those square windows can be eliminated. Also, some of those windows, in the bathroom areas, of course, you just don't want to have a big window like that. Even if it's frosted, when it's in the evening, someone could see the silhouette of shapes and whatnot. So it's always good to have a higher window, just enough for ventilation. And so once we start getting rid of some of those square windows, the building in itself becomes a bit more simplified, and it's not as loud of a modern, well, it won't be as different from the surrounding context. The front entry also for the home as its entrance from kind of this interior courtyard. A lot of times your entryway is actually going to be, coming from the alley as well, because you've parked your car and you're coming from there. So it might make sense actually to have an entry on southwest side, let's say, coming in from that angle. What that will do is create, if your entry is more from here, let's say, in this direction, coming in from there, I'll give you some relief over here where you could actually do a backup and come in to make this turnaround a little bit easier. So you really want to start thinking about this entryway of creating a nice entry for that. And so right now you just have this kind of 5x5 box sticking out, and it's not a very attractive entry. So I think you could work on that, integrate it into the courtyard a bit more, and make it a nice common open space there that's got some privacy from that garage, and at the same time makes the garage more usable. So those were kind of my thoughts, is some of these windows are going to end up going away, as some of these windows kind of facing the alley will probably end up simplifying themselves out. When we're looking on the other side at the multifamily building, this setup over here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 windows in this bedroom, and in reality, once you start laying out your door swings, you're going to want to swing your doors inside, then you want to lay your bed out with your credenza and all that, and you'll slowly see and get a feel for where you want to lay these out. So I would imagine this window and possibly this window, which is these guys, and possibly these guys, are going to get eliminated. Once those are eliminated, the facade ends up simplifying itself. But overall, I think that as Mr. Malakian pointed out, it's certainly odd, to have this kind of mixture of old and new, and I think it's perhaps driven by Ms. Reich's comments, or maybe a young designer that's really putting everything he's got into something. But it in itself, if you remove everything around it, it's a nice design. It's a contemporary home. It's well worked out. And some of those minor details, I think most of my colleagues are done giving advice as far as HVAC placement, trash placement, and all that. I'll make it much more of a enjoyable place for you to live in. So I think it's going to be a nice journey for you, and there's a lot of things that are going to come up that I think will help you during the plan check process.
Thank you, Mr. Simonian. I do share most of the comments that my colleagues are making. I think I want to just remind my colleagues, if I understood this correctly, Mr. Jain, correct me if I'm wrong, this came to us for the basis of the style. Due to the streamlined process, this could have been probably exempt if the approach was more of a traditional.
Yeah, this could have not exempted. It could have gone through administrative design review.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
And based on our outreach and our task force meetings that we had when we did our permits or the streamlining of our process, we recognized and we generally agree that it's best for a back building to have a fairly close architectural relationship with the front building. In this case, we acknowledge that Tudor revival of all of the styles that we have would be the hardest one to get the square footage they were looking for, plus the parking, without creating kind of a real massive structure. So we appreciated Hamlet's, version. We thought it would be, it's not an exact inversion of the roof planes, but it was kind of a roof that draws attention in the same way a Tudor roof draws attention to itself, and we thought that might be appropriate. But because the direction was typically from the board that we keep styles consistent from front to back, we wanted the board to hear this in a public setting so that we could gain direction for future cases that come to us like this.
Thank you, Mr. Jay. I needed to clarify that because, I support projects that kind of create similarity with the existing building in some neighborhoods. I think this is a good direction on the design, but the comment that I have, and may help some of these comments that are generated, is I think the two buildings are overwhelmed by being so close together, and the mass that is being taking place, the square footage, I think it's a bit excessive in my opinion. I think if we're going to approach this two different style, there should be a little further gap in between them to really define those. And of course, I agree with you, Mr. Simonian, is that we need to simplify, and also everybody else's, the design. But I think in this case, if I'm looking at this common area, and he has a garage door, he has to have some paving to get to the garage door. I'm looking at the landscape plan, and he needs to walk around this common area. So most of that common area is going to be a walkway. And I feel there should be a little more common area in between. And plus, this particular design that I see has, a good size eaves that are projecting out into those common areas that further gets the building to be much closer. A further relief is required, in my opinion, between those two buildings. I do support the modern between the old and new. I understand the Tudor may have been massive, but it could have been approached with a smaller scale, like a portion of it could be two-story, portion of it one-story, so it doesn't become such a massive structure if the Tudor was approached. But since this is in front of us as a modern, contemporary style, I'm willing to support this, but I still need to see a further gap in between those two buildings to kind of.
Can I ask one thing to address another comment we heard from one of the commissioners? If the roof over the garage were, say, a flat roof, we looked at a shallower sloped roof for the very reason you guys were talking about.
You're talking about the existing home.
Yeah, and the new garage attached to the existing house. When we looked at the shallower slope, it led to some geometry problems at the roof that were pretty awkward, and we didn't think it was a huge difference between the steeper roof and the shallower one. But, for example, if it were a flat roof, Could that provide the visual relief you're looking for without changing the square footages?
I don't think being flat is the. I think the geometry that it's creating, the mass that it's creating, not only the neighboring property, but the new structure that is being created. In front of the balcony, you can 10 feet away, and you have this huge mass. I mean, you can even see it on one of those renderings. How tall that structure is. I think it's the fourth one down. You can see kind of a shot through there. That thing is about 12 feet, or it's supposed to be 12 feet. It's just that solid mass.
A flat roof could help solve that.
I don't know if it's flat is the solution. I don't want to create, but I like the roof. It's consistent, but I'm just saying.
I'm talking about the garage attached to the front house.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
I don't have an issue with that. I mean, the mass is going to be there with this kind of a pitched roof with a Tudor. I mean, plus you have to think this house has gone through so much evolution. It's not. I mean, the roof shape is only a Tudor. The detailing and everything else, the windows have totally been changed.
I'm okay with that. I'm just more concerned about. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that he can get away with something a lot simpler rather than matching the roof, the existing roof, to create this large mass. That's what I'm trying to come. So, but my other question is, and I don't want to be kind of getting into this really in detail, but I'm trying to understand some of these detail work, because of some of these window placements that we have, the distance from the bottom to the roof lines and all that. If you look at the elevations, you have all these different heights that are given as a dimension. You have an 8'6", and one end you have 10'6", and then the front and the back, the elevation is, look at the west elevation. On the right side, you have 10'6" from grade to the bottom of the canopy. And then on the left, you have 8'6" from grade to the bottom of the canopy. And then you have 11'2" to the bottom of the top overhang. And then on the other side, you have 9'2". But then when you go to the section AA, everything is consistent. Everything is at 8 foot and 10'3", and you have 11'3". So there's, you have a 10'3", which is a 9'2" on the elevation, but then you have a 11'2", where you have 11'2", but then you have 8'6" at the bottom, where you have 8 foot at the bottom. So again, going back, and then you got AC unit in the middle of the roof, and there's no access to. So I'm just saying, overall, I think there needs to be some. We can probably approve it, but by the time you're done with correcting all of these details and elevation heights and canopies, and I understand you're trying to create some interest in the canopy, you don't want to create that flat, but the section is already creating a flat section. You don't have steps in the second floor. You have it all flat. You don't have any steps. But when you look at the exterior, you have all these things that are happening, the heights and elevate, and none of these have been translated between the section and the elevation. So by the time you're done, you may end up coming up with a whole new design that it may not actually look like what we're going to be approving because of all the reality, all the structural issues, all the code issues, and so forth. So I don't know.
I do agree with
if staff is willing to take on this challenge, that I can foresee this having quite a bit of structural issues and code issues and stuff. So if you guys were comfortable in doing a kind of a staff review on this, and if we just let this go, and if they're done with all these design stuff and they come back and
looking at the drawing, I'm seeing some drawing errors right now where some of the heights were measured to the top of the fascia, some to the bottom of the fascia. That could be part of what looks inconsistent. But yes, I think I think we've heard about the windows and some of the other issues, and we can easily work on those, and we can recommend that the applicant try to speak with someone at Building and Safety to just get some sense of, will the ceiling heights be too low, or are there going to be radical changes to the forms? But sure, we could work with them comfortably.
Because that the fascia board that you see on the west elevation, that can be achieved, but it won't be structural. It would be more of a decorative attachment rather than the actual structure extending through, because the structure is lower than that. So,
You're talking about the entry canopy.
well, the entry canopy, yeah, the entry canopy on the section, it shows 10'6", but when you look at the section, it's actually 8'.
Yeah, the section, I think, is cut through the living space, and then the entry has a higher awning that's cantilevering out, but similar.
Then
The entries on the section.
Entry's not on the
It's
section.
not on the section, the entry.
just trying to help.
No,
Ms.
of
Palmer,
course.
you had a question?
Adding to that, when you're on the site, there's about a 12-inch grade difference from the house as you go across the site. We don't have a grading plan, but does that affect the new house on the left side of the property, which is lower than the right side of the property? Because when you come out of that garage, you drop down almost a foot.
Okay.
So I don't know if that is the full length of the property or just where the proposed garage for the front unit is, but that might change things also.
I just want to go over it with the...
One,
Sure.
Commissioner Palmer, Board Member Palmer, you're talking about, is the slope across the
Across the
narrow?
lot.
Across the narrow.
You come out of the little patio in the back, and it comes down 3 steps, and then it dips down to the left property line, and then it
Okay.
goes to a hole in the back.
Okay, I see, yeah.
But we don't have a grading plan, so I don't know if that affects the building or the height of the new garage on the front unit, or,
Don't have enough dirt when they
So,
take out the
if
foundation.
I-
I'm just saying the way they've showed everything flat across.
Now, another thing I want to just, so we can be clear on the record, I just want to get a feel from the board members that is this style acceptable? Or, having two totally separate styles? If you're thinking of sending it back.
I don't
I don't
have a
have a big
problem of, I
You
mean,
don't have it, okay. So we'll just, so we can, finish that discussion on the style.
I think your point about the buildings being so close is a valid one, though. And I think that creates a problem.
Two things were popping to my mind. One is if that entry is eliminated to the new home, then it really becomes a 12-foot separation between the two.
That's a good point, though.
Yeah, and then second is, I think we've all kind of put our fingers on it, is the new garage that's added to the existing home. If that massing of that roof is reduced, it certainly would change the dynamic of that common open space that's created between the two. Now, how that's achieved is one thing. I think, to answer your question, at some point, someone's going to remodel the front to probably match more with the rear, because it's, this century as opposed to the last century. So, but we could at least help it with this less massing on the new garage that's added to the existing, where it won't be as difficult later.
I mean, that's a good point. Whether we change, I look at this plan here, and the new two-car garage that is being added to the house is a little, larger than what it should be. I don't know if they could relocate the washer dryer somewhere else, and that will pull the building. That will, from the back building and a few feet from the other one, then you have a separation, and I think the common area becomes, you'll have some light on that common area.
We could gain 3'9" if oh no, we still have the garage door. We can't gain that much.
Well, just that dash line.
We could reduce the patio size also.
Well, the dash line that you have.
Right.
That's basically it.
And remove the entry and the new one.
Remove the entry and the new one so you can have a turnaround based on the comments that were made.
So then the garage will be more usable.
'Cause
The
it's
new
totally
garage, the existing
unusable.
home will be then accessible.
It's per
Yeah.
code, but it's unusable.
There is room, I think. I think the square footage is there. I think you can achieve whatever the program that you've created by, further reduction. And then you can separate it and, of course, simplify the building. And with that...
May I make a suggestion?
Sure.
kind of listening to all the comments that were made, I'm hearing several things that are coming out. One is we're comfortable with staff proceeding if we give them some conditions. Two is we're in line to creating more separation between the two buildings by removing the entry, relocating the entry in such a way, and then perhaps shifting the new garage that's added to the existing home by relocating the washer and dryer. We're suggesting that the roof of the garage that's added to the existing building be reconfigured in such a way to reduce mass. And then we're really, the other item is elimination of the square windows in the bathroom areas and also in the bedroom areas to reduce unnecessary accents to a building that's already going to stand out. And lastly is reworking some of the trash area and also the common area to make it more usable. I think the last thing that only one person had recommended was the split system and seeing if that could be relocated to a better location, not so much on the roof. If we're agreeing on something like that and staff wants to take on that challenge, then those, I think, conditions would wrap up a lot of our comments, plus anything else that I left out.
Just, yeah.
Well, I'll entertain that motion then.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Could I get clarification on a couple of points? In terms of the square windows, considering that it was important to the designer to have that appearance, if they removed, for example, the lower 2 square windows and found a way to create more of a clear story where the wall space wouldn't be compromised as much, would that be a compromise solution for the board?
I'm happy with that, yeah. I mean, because that will simplify it.
Okay, rather than eliminate them totally, we can find,
I mean,
have less of them.
simplification we're looking for. I think there's, when we look at these elevations, it's just too busy. I don't see the windows and I don't see, some of the roof shapes that are taking place. But simplification will definitely help it.
Okay. Board Member Palmer had mentioned the metal awning at the front. Is there
Just a comment.
a comment? Okay, so not a condition. And
I mean, it'll help, but we'll leave it.
And then for the garage roof, if we lower the height of the roof, changing the pitch of the roof, does the board have any recommendations that you can visualize here, or is it more
Should
just?
complement both then. I mean, it shouldn't be something totally foreign to the front and the back.
So what if they put a shed roof on the garage sloping down toward the neighboring building that could start tying them together a bit?
Yeah. Then it would kind of bleed into the main roof of the home, get rid of that kind of awkward middle portion. It would maybe get rid of this portion, or just the shed roof.
It becomes continuous one piece.
Yeah.
So it's kind of creating that same sort of a slanted
Yeah.
butterfly.
I was picturing it sloping toward the neighbor, though. Knowing the roof a little bit, there's a hip that's connecting the main roof of the house to the garage, and that's an existing roof structure. You can see that lower roof.
That's in between.
Yeah, in between. So I pictured. Well, that's why I'm having trouble
Picture it
visualizing.
this way,
I was picturing the slope coming down toward the neighbor at the back and having a
the neighbor
slightly
in the
higher
back, so if I'm looking
wall.
at, yeah, okay.
So the apartment building portion of that roof would be higher. and the
No, I'm
No, lower.
picturing being lower.
That's what I was referring
Yeah,
to.
okay. Okay, I thought you were sloping toward the new building.
No, it's sloping the water towards the
Perfect, okay, so
apartment building.
we can recommend that and see how that
Yeah.
looks. And I think that was the only question I had.
Well,
And we need to revise the landscape plan per the
Oh,
comments.
I'm sorry, yes, I have that.
correct all plans, actually.
Yeah.
And what about the AC?
Okay, we're going to remove the palms at the front, provide more appropriate landscaping at the front, and also check on the landscaping at the driveway. To see,
Correct, and they've got trees planted where they have existing trees that there's no need to remove.
okay, so,
And the trash area has landscape in it.
yeah, we'll rework that. We'll make sure that we have enough landscape coverage, but I'm sure we'll find a place for the trash.
Going back to that roof, you have one more option if they want to look into, and there's already an existing roof line there, which is this right here. So they can actually carry the ridge of this over, and then wherever the garage wall is coming out. So I'm just saying carry this line over, follow this side the same slope, and then this side you
Have
can
a
just kind
longer-
of flatten the roof. So if it's a 12 and 12 right now slope, the front end will be 4 and 12 or
Right.
something. So you can carry the existing ridge line. So.
Yeah. So you're flipping it. Yeah,
So this side will be the same, so this roof will
Right.
carry over, but this side will be flatter, so you don't have to go all the way up
yeah.
and create that mess.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
already, rather than tear the existing roof out and create a whole new mess, they can do that. It's another option.
Okay, so we
Almost
have,
like a mansard without the...
Like a mansard, but then it'll die into the existing ridge line, so that can be carried over.
will just be an asymmetrical gable?
Asymmetrical gable.
Okay.
And last thing, I don't know if you got that, Jay, the AC unit. We're doing with it.
I wasn't sure if we heard concurrence on that. The code allows the unit to be on the roof, and the furnace, I believe, is usually
Yeah,
inside
but-
the house.
Code
Inside the-
also requires them to give access.
And also the
Right, well, we can work to make sure there's a roof hatch in the...
well, roof hatch is because if you're going to put a package unit, it's got to have some separation between the screening and the unit itself, so you know, to breathe a little bit. So, and I think that's going to even create a bigger mass on that roof. Now, I mean, that middle portion of the roof, in my opinion, could get higher a little bit and squeeze the furnace in there and have the condenser outside. I mean, if you concur with that, if you're happy with it, you know.
Well, he needs access, so it's got to be... These are just comments to help you out. You're going to need access to it, so something needs to be worked out. Provide that, either making that middle part bigger or doing a split system. Right?
They can explore that.
They can explore it. I just feel that the piece is going to get larger. That
They can
blocks.
put it right on the side yard and then
Yeah.
put a unit on the ground floor.
Ground floor,
So
yeah.
right behind the kitchen.
I mean, they have so much square
nothing
footage.
there.
Actually, it doesn't have to go into the attic.
Well, if
Yeah.
you have a good suggestion, maybe make it. It might
I mean,
help them out.
because you could put it, you got so much spaces that, you know, you could take out from and put the furnace in this, vertical furnace rather than a
Yeah,
horizontal furnace.
because it's creating that, like a chimney effect kind of,
Yeah.
which
I
doesn't
mean, it
really
could be
help.
certainly at end of the closet of bedroom number 3. You know, right where the number 4 symbol is, right here.
Yeah.
Make
Yeah, it could be there,
Could be
yeah.
there, very easily.
I mean, there is room to put that vertically.
Because that already is a very big closet, and by the time the door swings, you won't be able to access some of it. So-
And that will eliminate that whole thing and the whole access to the roof. And I think, you know,
And then have the condenser somewhere along the side yard.
side yard, yeah.
Escaped area. Okay.
Put it on the, was it, east side of the kitchen.
Yeah. You can even put it behind that bathroom on the first floor.
Right.
Chair.
Well, go ahead.
I just again wanted to reiterate, we appreciate kind of the excitement and what you're doing, and a lot of these comments are really to help you, so you end up having a lot easier time going for building and safety. It's not an easy task to take on as a young designer, but you're doing a great job, and I think if you integrate a lot of these thoughts in there, you're going to be able to have a very successful building come out of it. Getting a lot of advice, I guess, for free.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Simonian. Do I have a second or?
I did second.
Second, okay. So are we ready for a roll call?
Sure. Board Member Palmer,
Yes.
Simonian,
Yes.
Alekian,
Yes.
and Martin.
Yes.
Okay, the motion, it's approved with conditions. 4-0.
Mr. Chair, this next case coming up, I need to recuse myself. I live right around the corner from it. We look at one another. In fact, I'm going to kind of just go on the other side and probably come up and make a comment or two.
All right.
So I'd like to recuse myself. I did speak with the architect, and we came up with some conditions that he thought were good conditions, so I'd like to recuse myself.
Thank you, Mr. Samarno. All right, let's go to the next case.
Okay. Chairman Mardian, meeting board members. Yes, as Mr. Simonian mentioned, I was going to just quickly repeat that he is recusing himself the fact that he lives within 500 feet, and so we have 3 board members, and we still have a quorum for this particular case. The case now under review is case number PDR 1428182. The project is located at 2587 Cascadia Drive. The project consists of demolishing the existing attached carport, constructing a new attached 2-car garage, adding a new 745 square foot master suite above, and remodeling the existing 1,564 square foot single-family residence located on a 14,600 square foot lot zoned R1R. In addition, the project will also involve the replacement of all doors and windows, a new front entryway and kitchen bathroom expansion on the ground floor, and a new deck on the second floor. This is a first-time submittal for final review, and the project is exempt from CEQA. There are no active building permits on file for this property. The project site is an odd-shaped lot located on the north side of a sharply curved portion of Cascadia Drive. According to the city's GIS records, the uphill lot has an average current slope of approximately 46%. The existing building pad sits approximately 22 feet above Cascadia and 18 feet below the residential building pad directly to the north. The majority of the surrounding hillside lots have been developed with a mix of 2- and 3-story single-family residences. At this point in time, I'd like to step up to the the detailed staff report was broken into 3 sections, the first being site planning. As I've already indicated, the existing single-family home. I'm going to actually hand you photographs as well. The existing single-family home, 1-story, sits on a knoll. As you'll notice, I believe the aerial images are going to be put up shortly, which fronts Cascadia essentially on 3 sides. The existing winding driveway will remain but will be resurfaced. And the applicant is proposing to make a small 21 square foot addition of a foyer and an 88 square foot addition to the rear for a kitchen and rear small bathroom. The existing carport, you'll notice in the photographs, will be demolished and it will be replaced with a 2-car garage with the master suite up above the new 2-car garage. With only minor additions to the existing building footprint, much of the site planning remains unchanged. And the site planning is consistent with the design guidelines and is compatible with the placement and construction of other residences in the neighborhood. The second portion of the staff report focused on mass and scale. The project features a new 2nd-story addition to the existing single-story house. All other homes in the survey area are 2 stories, so this was the last remaining 1-story home in its vicinity. The 2-story addition will have an overall height, so note here, of 21 feet 2 inches from the existing building pad, the finished grade. This is an R1R zone, so they would be allowed to go up to 32 feet in height or up to 35 feet in height with a pitched roof. The existing building pad in this cross-section probably shows it best. Sits 22 feet above Cascadia Avenue, and as I also mentioned, 18 feet below the residences to the north. All of the homes along Cascadia Drive are zoned R1R. The neighborhood to the north, and I'll show you here on the aerial, and the aerial image is up as well. The homes to the north are actually in a planned residential development. This particular zone is R1, Floor Area District 3, in a planned development zone, planned residential development zone. Yet the properties along Cascadia are zoned R1R, single family residential on Hillside. The new second story has been designed with a flat roof, not only to match the existing roof line, but also to have less impact to the residences above. If it was pitched or ridged, then it would be greater in height. The two-story addition and massing are concentrated on the far west portion of the home. Again, you'll notice here, with above the two-car garage. There are no homes on either side of the property. Both lots on the east and west are vacant. And the neighbors to the south across Cascadia Drive, all of those homes actually sit at or below the street level. As per the Glendale Municipal Code, there are no views from the living room, den, dining room, or other public rooms or balconies directly onto the properties below on Cascadia Drive or to the residences to the north. There is a proposed rooftop deck. You'll notice here on this particular elevation, the master suite is up above the two-car garage. There is a rooftop deck that is proposed. It will feature a screening element in its north side to limit visibility to the property to the north. Also, the westerly elevation of the second story has been designed to address any privacy issues regarding such neighbors. Given the slope and the topography of the lot, as well as the overall minimal building height and the design of the second story, the proposed residence will not unreasonably impact the privacy of the neighboring buildings. Also, because of the changes in grade between the properties and the overall height, the proposed massing for the house is compatible with the existing development and is consistent with the design guidelines. The last topic noted in your staff report was with regards to building design and detailing. The intent of the applicant's proposal was not only to add the new two-car garage and the second story above, but also to update the existing single-family 1956 building. The project's design and detailing, it continues to focus on clean lines, simplicity, while also incorporating modern finishes and a minimal aesthetic that complements the existing residence's somewhat mid-century architecture. The existing house in the majority of the second story addition, you'll notice, will feature white stucco walls. The actual garage itself will be clad in a horizontal dark gray vertical siding. There are redwood horizontal elements used for the front entryway addition, as well as to offset certain design accent walls of the second story. There's a contemporary second floor also has a combination of glass balcony and railing systems as well. There are also wood brise-soleils and projecting bands that emphasize the rectilinear geometry. The flat roof, accent bands, and brise-soleils provide a horizontal emphasis on the new addition, while the proposed materials give it a more contemporary, updated look of the original 1956 house. In conclusion, staff recommends that the board approve the project with conditions. There were two. One would be to clarify the design of the new driveway paving and provide details or a cut sheet for staff review. And the second would be to make sure that all windows be constructed of either aluminum or fiberglass and be recessed within their openings. So typical vertical section drawings depicting this condition should be provided by the applicant. Currently the windows are vinyl. That concludes staff's presentation. We received a number of telephone calls. There was a letter that was submitted by the neighbor to the north that I actually emailed to you the other day, and I have printed out copies for your review on the dais as well. There was also a telephone call from Mr. Duran, who I believe is also in the audience, along with the property owner, or I should say the neighbor, who would like to speak as well. So I'll leave their comments to their testimony and presentation. But there were no other phone calls or letters submitted regarding this project. Are there any questions?
This bottom south elevation, isn't that really a north elevation?
I'm sorry, technically, yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So this would be the north elevation, facing north, and then the one on that would be facing south. Just a little typo.
Are there any city requirements regarding stabilizing that slope that's at the back side?
They have an existing retaining wall that is to be maintained. There are no other proposed.
Where's that existing?
The retaining,
wall? Can you
yeah,
retain?
there's an existing retaining wall, sorry.
It's like a swale.
It's like a swale, I apologize, yeah.
But
But no, there are
There's
no
no
other.
retaining-
There is no retaining wall, no, I apologize. There's a small retaining wall that's put along the building pad, as you'll notice there. But no, there is no retaining wall. Apologize. But there,
I mean,
that are proposed.
obviously, have you been to the site? Because that's a vertical cut, and we're putting a new building there. Is an island going to require
Actually-
that? Require some sort of a wall there?
I have been to the site. Jay Platt and I actually walked all around the site, and we also went up to the adjacent property owners,
Okay.
the neighboring site as well. And they are only proposing to, this isn't a new residence, they're only proposing to demolish the existing carport and put up a new two-car garage in the residence above. So
And what's proposed on the front slope? Where the
they are not proposing to replace the existing small retaining wall. They are proposing a small redwood fence around the perimeter, which is, it would be just a perimeter fence atop the existing retaining wall. And because it is located outside the 15-foot street setback, it would be permitted by code.
And how about retaining wall in here? Anything here?
They're not proposing no changes to it.
And the driveway meets our current standards?
The driveway meets the minimum, or I should say the maximum 20% slope.
20%.
So yes.
And in staff report, you talk about a new deck. That's just flat on the ground on the other
That's that
side.
triangular.
Correct. The new deck
That's
off
what you
of the
remember,
living
yeah.
room would be just
So it's not
flat
really a
work.
structure.
It's not a structure, no.
Any questions? We're okay. Let's open the public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public hearing is open. I'm going to go to the owner, Rand Alexander.
Hi, everyone. Wow, this is exciting. I'm really glad to be here. This is a great opportunity, and thanks, Vilya. That was it was fun to sit back and hear someone else talk about a project that really we just put together on a cocktail napkin before we came in here. I'm just kidding, actually. We're excited about this. When I first found this property, what drew me to it was as we drive up Cascadia, it just gets better and better and better. And it was like, what is that up on the hill? And apparently it was an older couple, a Japanese couple that have lived there. And I think the gentleman built it in '56 and beloved by the neighbors around him. And so when we walked into the place, it was in disrepair and dire, but the bones of it, really solid concrete, great tongue and groove ceiling, gorgeous beams. I just pictured Frank Sinatra landing there on a helicopter. And so when I was working with Pierre, my designer, it was, let's just update this for the 21st century. I mean, everywhere around there you've got gorgeous new building, just a lot of neat, unique buildings around there. And then it wasn't until a while later that we looked up and we noticed kind of the planned community up above. And so, fortunately, that is a separate property area, and we're part of the Chevy Chase Estates. And so I feel that what we're presenting here is just kind of an updating to a classic style. We really want to just kind of update the rest of the house, and where we're adding the garage, that is part of updating, so it's contemporizing. And we just felt that any other segmenting of the house for a master suite, it just wasn't a consideration. That place meant that we can consolidate our massive construction to one area of the home, because we're going to be redoing the garage anyway. And also, we didn't think that anyone would see us over there, because there's quite a large hillside, whereas on the other side, there's 4 or 5 or 6 homes that look down on us, and we look down on an immediate home. So it really wasn't much of a decision. That's just kind of the logical placement for that house. And we know that we have the airspace up to 34 feet, but that's just kind of overkill. And I'll end with this. Some people had said, why would you not just tear down the house? That's not something that I like to do. I like to go in, and I mean, when I find a place like this, it's a real rare breed, and you can go to an empty lot and build a new house. This already has fantastic, wonderful concrete inside, and like I said, all the other features. So this is just really what we'd like to do with the project.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. I'm going to go to the designer, Pierre Derbier. Is that correct?
Hi, good afternoon. I just want to present myself. I'm Pierre Derbier. I'm a designer for the property. Essentially, when Rand approached me for the property, I thought it was a great piece of land, but it did had some restriction due to the location on the hillside. So we decided to work within the footprint of the building without disrupting any of the site. So essentially, what we're proposing, it's kind of a remodel of the existing 1,564 square feet house, opening the kitchen, creating an inside-outside living by opening the living room to both yards, kind of make a transition connection, because there's not really a front yard, there's not really a backyard to the site, so we're trying to make them connect. Essentially, one of the bedroom is turning into a living room, and we are locating one of the bathroom to the bedroom. So that's essentially on the ground floor, small addition to enlarge a bathroom and a foyer. We're turning the carport into a 2-car garage. The second floor, well, basically it's on top of the garage. Our priority was height. We didn't want to go over 22 feet because we felt it might be a little, felt comfortable with 9'6" ceiling without going over the top to the maximum, so we were about 10 feet below the the allowable height. And privacy definitely was an issue, and we tried to address as much as possible. We tried to concentrate all of our views towards Cascadia without limiting the views towards the north of the building. And we also provided screening on the exterior deck in order to address the privacy issue. So essentially, we tried to keep the site the way it is without having to mess with it too much, given its condition. The driveway will be resurfaced. We can repave it. We have the first 15. I know that's one of the conditions. First 15 feet will be decorative pavers. As far as and then finishes, like Vilya mentioned, we try to give a more contemporary feel of the house while still remaining somewhat subtle with natural elements. So smooth stucco, redwood sidings. Essentially just giving a kind of an update look.
Thank you, Mr. Pierre. Any questions to the designer?
I have one or two questions. So you're indicating that there's you're removing the existing ducting and AC units from the existing roof?
Mm-hmm. Well, anything that's exterior, we're either relocating or replacing the existing HVAC unit.
So how is that going to be addressed? Are you just going to remove and put the ducting inside the building, being that it's 8 foot and you're going to have a 7 foot?
Well, we already have soffits existing ducting on the inside that we're going to, whatever can be reused, we reuse it and connect it to the existing.
Same thing for the upper?
The upper, yes. We have
Because all the
kind of
windows are
shaft
going
space.
all the way to the roof framing, so you don't have any kind of a, so everything would be,
Well, we have opening for shaft on the ground floor, kind of try to connect it and go. That's why we have those empty spaces to either have the duct run through here and then just have a soffit along the line to just have it basically service that area.
okay. So, the door that you're placing right at the edge of the, so there's not going to have any weather protection or anything, you're just bringing all the way up to the flush with the existing edge of the canopy, is that what you're proposing?
Yeah, the foyer. There was, yeah. So essentially, right now, yes, it's just basically under the existing overhang of the.
So it's flush with the
Flush,
outside, so
yes.
basically you open the door, rain comes in, it just goes straight in.
Well, yeah, potentially, probably a canopy might be required. We had a kind of a screening canopy at some point. But,
So, and then the last question is, the new deck that you're adding over the existing roof, so you're basically placing the framing over the existing framing, is that what it is, or? is
Correct,
that-
we're going-
So you're gonna basically,
kind of, it's going to be a roof over a roof, basically. We're going about a foot above the existing roof, and it's going to be the deck aligns with the walls below, so we're going to have new posts and everything to support the deck. But essentially, it'll be a new roof over the roof.
and how are you gonna be addressing the slope of the roof and the drainage and all that, so you're gonna have any gutters or anything?
We have currently, depending on how much slope, currently we have a gutter towards the north end of the wall, but we are also considering if it's too much of a slope, we might just have drain, just and then scupper on the side.
The north elevation.
If you look at 102,
Yeah, it's on 102, 4-inch per foot slope. Got a gutter in the
Where's the
back.
gutter?
It's in the back, but it's not called
Double
out.
line. Yes, there's a note for it.
On the elevation?
oh, no, not on the elevation,
Plan
on the roof
A102.
plan.
Oh,
Sorry.
On the elevation, there's nothing.
yeah, it's a very clean design, and I just want to make sure that everything is addressed accordingly, because it slopes back, but then when you look at the actual section that you have, A210, you're sloping all within the middle of the structure.
Yeah, well,
so-
there was talk of having a drain area at this point, and then I think we decided to just, since we have the height, decided to just slope it on one side and have the gutter. Maybe something that needs to be updated.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
A question I think I'm going to follow up, but before I go there.
Oh,
Commissioner
I'm
Palm?
sorry, one more question. Your rendering is, let's say, elevation, let's just go your elevation. The siding that you're proposing around the garage, in your, it's calling out, it's basically showing a horizontal, very thinly spaced, like very narrow. But then on your material board, you're calling out 12-inch wide vertical siding. So is it vertical or is it 12-inch or?
No, yeah, it was supposed to be minimal and then
So
horizontal.
we use the elevation as our
Yeah,
basis?
correct.
Okay.
I mean, there will still be wood sidings, it will be, but minimal and
But
horizontal.
matching the elevation rather
Correct.
than your
Rather than
material.
the,
Okay, all right,
but same color.
thank you.
Commissioner Palmer?
I have no questions at this point.
I had a question following up on Ms. Malikian's question. Why are you building up? Because that's a whole new garage structure. The roof is new, the floor is new. Why are you building up on the existing?
The deck,
The
the
deck?
roof deck.
Yeah, but that's
The-
the same line as the floor line. Why is there? Because now I see the elevation and I see a break. The floor is a little higher than the existing roof. Correct me if I'm wrong. See, it shows better on this elevation, probably. Right there. What's the reason behind that?
Why are we having the second floor?
Yeah, I mean, why are you not keeping that same floor line in line with the eave line?
With the eave line, it was just for design intent. We just want kind of this form resting on top, independent and kind of resting on top of a pedestal, just so that the form flows.
And back to the driveway, is that because the driveway? I mean, the whole house needs repair, but is the driveway going to be totally replaced?
Yeah, it needs to be
It's totally
resurfaced.
And my concern is, you have this vertical hill slope cut in the back. You're not intending to put any retaining walls?
Well, we did get a source report,
Okay.
and we did. It says everything seems fine, and then we're okay with shallow foundation. I think the distance from the existing hillside cut line was about 4 or 5 feet. But if we go to plan check and they ask us to, do a masonry wall or retaining wall,
I think you're going to. I'm just giving you a little heads up because
Okay.
You're putting a new structure. You're close to the slope, so you may end up with a wall.
Okay.
And the other thing is, I should have asked staff earlier. I'm looking at the chart here. The proposed, it says 3,038, but when I calculated, the house is 2,500. So
I think that's maybe adding the garage also, as far as the lot coverage.
This is in regards to the neighborhood survey
Yeah.
that you're referring to?
yeah, 3038.
Second, please.
Is that with the garage you're thinking?
I'm
of?
assuming it not.
Okay. That's all. Thanks. Any other questions?
Correct,
before?
that's what you're pointing out is incorrect.
Incorrect. Go ahead.
I was just saying, the only stonework you have is the exterior of the fireplace?
Correct. Just at this location.
Thank you, Mr. Pierre.
Thank you.
I'll probably call you back again. For the next speaker, I believe is the other owner, Benjamin Fentor.
Yes, thank you, Benjamin Fenton. I'm sort of a silent investor, but I just wanted to say I think Pierre and Rand have done a great job, and I'm proud of the design they did. It's a beautiful neighborhood. The houses on Cascadia are beautiful, and I think it fits and does justice to the neighbors on Cascadia. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is this house going to be where they live, or is this going to be sold?
I think it's going to be sold.
Okay.
Thank you. Next speaker is Daniel Reisberg.
Hello. I'm the broker. The house will definitely be sold. I've worked with Rand since 2006. He has a exceptional ability to find a gem, polish it up. We usually get into escrow within 10 days of going on the market. He's one of my favorite clients. He's excellent at working with his neighbors, making concessions. That's what he does. He's a great guy to work with. And we brought in Pierre. He brought in Pierre about last year on our Silver Lake project. And the house was beautiful, and he just has this knack for making these awesome properties. So, given the area, I've done some research. There's the immediate homes around that bend of Cascadia. They're all so unique and custom in design. I think this one will be just a jewel perched on top of that knoll. It's just a beautiful area, beautiful piece of property, beautiful piece of land. So hopefully they get through with the design board, and I have full confidence in them that I think this thing will sell 1.5, 1.6 million is the goal, something like that. And the homes that are currently there right now, they're brand new, at least it seems. I couldn't find anything, no history. So the people that built these homes are living there. There's not too many comps in the area, but they're beautiful homes. I think this will go right along with that. So.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Brian Duran.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. As you know, I represent the Chevy Chase Estates Association. I live on Graceland Way in Glendale. And we find this project to be a little unusual because, first of all, it's within the allowable slope. We don't see massive grading, which compromises the topography. We see the mass and scale to be appropriate for the size of the lot. And because it's so high above the roadway, almost anything that's done up there you really can't see, so compatibility becomes almost moot, although the design does fit in with the surrounding custom homes. We feel that this is actually a project that is what we call an easy one. We don't have to write position letters and meet with the residents and everything else because it doesn't seem to affect anybody, and besides, it seems like a positive addition as an upgrade. We've heard that there's an objection to this that has to do with view rights, which we don't have in Glendale. There's no view ordinance. There are no air rights that are being violated. We believe anyone who has a reasonable expectation of preserving their view without controlling the property that affects their view is being unreasonable. So we object to any kind of blockage of an addition or upgrade which has that premise. Basically, we're in support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Durant. Good to see that you're supporting a project today. But I'll go to the next speaker is Dr. Talar Tajarian. Is it Taharian or Tajarian? Tajarian, yes. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. We are the house to the north or behind the property, so I think people forget that there's a house behind, but we are the only house that's adjacent to this project that they will build. And we already submitted our letter of concern, but I wanted to highlight the main concern that we have right now is the positioning of that second floor. Our main windows face the area where the developer wants to put the second floor. And what that does for us is it creates a real problem. What I wanted to do was show you from our family room, which is a big place where we spend a lot of our time, what the story poles look like. And this is not minimized to us. This is very large. It's very dominating. And it really feels like somebody's building it into our backyard because the way that our property is, it's very open. And this makes it very intrusive. There's more than just view problem here. There's a problem of privacy. The best way that I could show it to you is a picture from the applicant that I focused in. The angle is a little bit off because they took it from a different angle in our yard. But if you just focus from the area that we're going to see from our main windows, you will see that the master bedroom is going to be facing our house. We're going to see this from our main windows. They have floor-to-ceiling windows over here in the master bathroom. And actually, if you just go stand on the roof, we can see the people very well from our windows. We can wave to them. Everyone feels like it's right there. So this is a real privacy concern to us. One of the reasons why we bought our house almost a decade ago was because it was very important to us to be able to open our windows, get in natural light, and have that with privacy, not being concerned about other people looking in. On the other side of us, we do have neighbors. We do keep those shut for their privacy and for ours. But the side that we keep open is the side where now this would be. And whoever they sell it to will be able to look into our house, and our privacy is going to be completely compromised. Our sanctuary, what we consider after coming home after a long day of work, is going to be gone because now this property has a view into our house. So one of the things that they proposed was to put a row of bushes, shrubs in that area. And from what I read, the shrubs have poisonous berries. Aside from that, I think putting the second floor in that area, although we're behind the house, we are the context of the house because we're the only one that's close enough to be affected by it. And basically putting the second floor where it is, it's like creating a big open wound, and then putting the shrubs is like putting a little Band-Aid on it. It just doesn't work, and I think that there's a better solution. I mean, ideally for us, it would be
That's okay. Go ahead. Finish up.
Okay. I mean, ideally for us, it would be a one-story house. But, in order to compromise, we asked the developer, we said, why not move it to the east a little bit where there's empty space? There's a berm over there, a little hill. It could be much less intrusive for us if it's just moved over. We would probably barely even see it. And then everyone would be happy. But they weren't open to this. So that's why we're here today. We ask that our viewpoint please be considered. We just want to continue living our lives the way that we do.
So let me clarify. Is it both view and privacy is your concern?
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions?
Do you know approximately how far this addition would be from your house?
I don't know in feet how far it is. I just know how it feels to us, and it feels like it's very close to us.
I think the dimensions are actually on the site plan. Up top?
On top. We didn't get that.
I think it's hard to tell, but even just walking to our doorway, you see it. It looks like a massive structure. Everyone coming to our house is asking us, what is this thing?
Property line or to the house?
To the house. House to house.
72 feet.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Martin? Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Next speaker is Mr. Simonian.
Chairperson Mardian and commissioners, good evening. I'm usually on that side, but I'm on this side as a private citizen and as a neighbor. My house is directly to the east, so if you look right across is the green metal roof. If you keep on panning over, go down, Mr. J.
No.
No.
Right here.
That one.
Correct. And so I'm speaking today as a direct neighbor that lives within 500 feet. I reviewed the drawings and whatnot and actually had a conversation with Pierre. And I must say he was very responsive, and we discussed some ideas that I had, not as a commissioner, but as a neighbor, that he also agreed, and he called back and he said he spoke to the ownership, and they were in agreement with some of these thoughts that I had. The house that I live in, of course, doesn't have a backyard. We just have a south-facing deck, and so we have a kind of an east-west axis from our deck onto the property, and if this property is perched up higher, of course. And so there were a couple of thoughts that I had, which Pierre seemed to be accommodating to, and he said he would be amenable to these, is that hill right on Cascadia that we're all referring to, which if I could approach the board, I'd like to show it. It's really this hill in this area. So this is Kennington, that's Cascadia, and it meets over, and this is probably the most steepest part of the property, and as you look up, it's basically like a straight wall up. There are some existing vegetation up in that area, which consists of sumac and oleanders, and et cetera, which are more like bushes and whatnot, which certainly could be cut one day. And although right now they're screening the eastern portion of that, the home, which is where the fireplace is, if you look at the plan, but if they're cut, then there's a more direct contact. So I'd recommended to Pierre to keep that landscaping the way it is, which he thought was a good idea. I also recommended that windows number 1 and 2, which are on either side of the fireplace, be solid at the bottom, and those would turn into high windows, and he thought those were a good idea. So in the case that landscaping is cut in the future, we wouldn't have direct eyesight with one another. The third item was we have the new proposed deck on the second floor of the master bedroom. There was some screening on the north side that he's proposed, was continuing it on the east side, maybe so far as maybe 40% of the deck, where it would come up with be in line with the 2 lounge chairs, and he thought that was a good idea. Overall, the massing and the layout, I think, is the appropriate solution. That is because they're adding the garage and they're really building on top of the garage. Now, if you move it to the east, it's always going to affect somebody. But in this location, where that's proposed, at least, it's got a minimal effect on the surrounding homes. What you mentioned, Mr. Marty, and as far as a retaining wall, I think is a good idea. Every time after rain, that entire hillside ends up eroding and falling down, so I think it's something that should be considered as well. So if they're amenable to those, I certainly would support the project from a neighborhood point of view, and those were my thoughts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simonian. Any questions?
There's a rebuttal.
Yeah, we're going to have a rebuttal, but any other questions for now? Mr. Pierre, can you approach, if you have anything to add or anything that you want to add to the concerned neighbor?
No, I mean, like I mentioned.
Actually, I'm not sure if you'd like to call the applicant or the designer up, or if they'd like to consolidate there. I just wanted to make sure that they're given an opportunity.
Okay.
Thanks.
So.
Yeah, as far as the rebuttal, they were kind enough to allow us into their backyard. I have here a copy of, if I may present this with you guys, just to check it out, but it's pictures and email correspondence, and it was great correspondence. It was me reaching out to them and them saying, well, we don't agree with win-win, but why don't you come and meet with us and let's talk. And when we went there to their backyard, Villia had mentioned, well, it is pretty intrusive. And when we got there, we said, well, maybe, but I mean, it did help me to get in their shoes to see, given the surrounding neighborhood, it is minimal, and it's not a sightline thing, but it is a privacy thing. So we said, well, there was a deck there. There's not going to be. And then John, the husband, said, well, maybe if you had trees or something that blocked it out so we didn't see it. So we said, fantastic. Anyway, this here, if I may give this to you, is you can choose to read or not, is the pictures from not only what it was, and then with the deck what it was, then scaling it back, a couple of options of the scaled back versions we have, and then finally with the native plants as we suggested. And then you'll find within the email correspondence, I said, hey, I think we've come up with a solution. And then finally they wrote back and just said, you know what, this really isn't going to work for us. And I'm not trying to jump on them. I just want to be clear about what sort of outreach we tried to do in a neighborly fashion to just, bring this to a quick solution so that everybody can feel good about it. Because like everybody that has spoken seems to agree that it's a tasteful rendition of the property that currently is in major disrepair. So
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What is this? Was the extension over the?
That was an old design.
Right. I'm trying to understand if it's this extension is on this side or here.
Mind if I?
Sure.
It's hard to see.
Was it like?
Okay.
I'm assuming they're standing here and they're taking a picture.
Yeah. Sorry, it's hard to see from back there, but yeah. So we're here taking a picture this way, and what this used to be was jutting out more there, and so we cut it back, and then that's where now there's no deck that wraps around there. Anyway, thanks a lot.
Thank you. We appreciate you meeting with the neighbors. Any questions before, or want to close the public hearing? Ms. Barmore, I'll start with you this time.
Okay, I like the design. I like the fact that they're just going to go above the garage since they're building the garage and maintaining the rest as is and improving it. I was on the site, and I was right up to that fence where the neighbors are. The story poles do not go above the wrought iron fence, and the portion that is blocking their view is really only 20 feet wide. So I think it's a minimal addition that's been sensitive to the surrounding neighbors. When you look at the elevations, there aren't windows that directly look onto there. The deck has been screened off with fencing. So I think an effort has been made to address some of those issues.
So a quick question: the vegetation that
it's not showing on this map.
Yeah. So how's that?
Well, I was just going to say
that's outside of the property they're proposing to put in.
No, that's on their
Where?
property up above, on the hill up above.
On the neighbor's property.
No.
No, they still got some room.
They still have some
They still
property
have some
behind.
room.
Yeah, but see the corner, it's diagonal. They don't have the room to
Up
put it.
here. You go up, they're looking from up here.
Not on that diagonal. I don't have any reference to see
I'm just saying,
exactly-
when you stand right here,
Okay,
you're looking, they have room up here.
okay.
I like the design. I really have no comments regarding, I do want to address the landscape. It appears that the proposed landscape has already been installed, which is fine. But I do highly suggest that none of the vegetation on that slope all the way around be removed, because any removal of that will definitely cause erosion, major erosion. And I would suggest maybe a slough wall down on Cascadia, along that where it's very steep, because right now, even in dry weather, that's eroding, maybe a 12-inch slough wall. And I would think you might need the retaining wall at the top and also along the driveway area. What else did I have? And you were going to put the fencing along where those little retaining wall is now, so I think that's fine. I think overall, it's screened from everybody around except for the neighbors behind, and that's really only a 20-foot section that's lower than the wrought iron fence. So I think that's probably the most sensitive way that can be done.
Thank you, Commissioner Palmer.
May I clarify one point?
Yes.
For on the landscape plans, it shows several locations to remove dead bushes. Were those already
I don't think
removed?
that dead bushes should be removed. There's a lot of weeding to be done, but anything that's a viable bush should not be removed. And then if plant screening can be placed up above that addition, doesn't show anything. I don't know where the poisonous plants came from, but something that's indigenous to the area and maybe doesn't go higher than the wrought iron railing would be sufficient.
Thank you.
So two quick comments in regards to the privacy and also the view. As a design review board member, we're here to review the design, and unfortunately, we do not have any authority addressing view obstruction. So there's no, there are privacy concerns, and if there are any, we would definitely address it, and I'm going to talk about that a bit. But as far as the view obstruction, we do not have the right to reject the project or change the project because of somebody's view has been obstructed. Something you have to take it to the council, and something that has to be addressed to them. As far as the overall design, I think it's done exceptionally well. They've done a really nice job, very clean, minimal, keeping the existing bone and structure and the window placements and just keeping it very minimal, and there's no nonsense approach to the whole existing structure itself. I would suggest a kind of a revisit of the front entry. That door, if it's going to be a solid door, it's going to be slammed with the sun, and it's going to warp away, and it's going to become a whole mess on its own. So I think a little bit of a protection won't be a bad idea. The first thing that I've just jumped on me, and I know a lot of people will argue with me, but the first thing that jumped on me is the proportion of the addition versus the elongated the building itself. And I think, to me, I love the way that it's designed and it's placed in. It's going over a new structure, which is great. And I like the way that it's sitting over on top of the existing plane, that it gives you this break on the plane, and also will allow you to hide all the imperfection of the existing roof, which is great. But I think it just looks too cut off. I think the addition looks really an addition rather than the extension. This is a suggestion, and it's a recommendation. It's not a condition, unless you guys agree with me. I think and I can kind of explain to you by looking at this perspective. I think this perspective tells a lot in compared to something that I'm looking at here, or even the elevation. The elevation is this elongated span of structure, and then this attachment is there. But when you look at this perspective, it just feels that it's kind of merging into each other. So I think my recommendation is that where you have this L shape coming around, I would take that L shape to the opposite side of that the deck area, so that that canopy itself becomes elongated. That section becomes a little bit longer. It merges in. Rather than creating a mass, it becomes a void, but yet it's a covering there. So I think, in my opinion, I think that would definitely tie the whole thing a lot better, and it would extend this and make the upper level be more in part with the lower level. And I don't know if I was clear enough. I can kind of, yeah, I kind of sketched that up here. So I think in relation to, looking at this long band and this little piece of attachment, which what you see there proportionally. So I think adding this, not a solid mass, but a void, it kind of starts playing with these formation.
Well, you have it you sketched it on your elevation on the top one.
Yeah.
You sketched it. Right?
Yeah, and that's what I was, it's a void, it's open all sides, but it just kind of carries that over. Recommendation, it's not just a thought. But overall, I think the siding, I agree. I think the elevation siding is much better than the vertical. I would go with the horizontal siding, and overall, I think it's a great project.
You mentioned you wanted to discuss something about privacy. Where were you going with that?
And the privacy. I think view, obviously, it's not addressed. And then privacy, I think by placing the screen in the back of the building and putting the high window within I think it's in the restroom, if I'm not mistaken. So those two, if a project would have come to us without those would be my conditions of placing the screen and also moving the window all the way up. So I think they've addressed that very well, and I think it does provide the privacy. It's actually, I would probably look at it the other way around, for the tenants to have privacy from the people above rather than people standing here looking up towards them. I think it will be easier for them to look down into the building rather than them looking up. But putting these screens, I think, will definitely help and give them a clear shot into the restroom and bathroom.
Thank you. I concur with my colleague. I went there twice, and today I went up there and climbed a little bit. And Ms. Palmer, you're right that the height of the story pole is like 4 or 4.5 feet above the pad in the back. And actually, I went further. The pad in the back, I don't know if you notice, it has a berm at the edge. So it's a little higher, so it blocks the back there. I don't have an issue with the design, the mass and scale, but I'll entertain one thing to the commissioner, just to, although we don't have a privacy, we have the privacy but not the view. I think there's about a foot or 1.5 feet of room to drop this building. But if you're willing to not go that route, so be it. But if you look at I think will help your situation too when you're saying this piece needs to be elongated. It needs to come down a little bit. If you look at the section, the existing house has 8'6" ceiling, and at the garage we're pushing it up higher, and the second floor has a 9'6" ceiling. So I think maybe a 1.5 feet of drop in the building will help also.
If you could, if the board decides to go this way, if you could couch your reasoning in terms of privacy, because I'm having trouble seeing how that would change privacy. But since we can't regulate view protection, the board can't ask for that reduction to improve the view over the top of the house.
Okay.
I think the view issue was not.
It's not an issue, yeah.
No, but it wasn't the height. It was the solid mass in front of it.
Yeah, if you couch it in terms of the proportion of the addition and better integrating with the volume of the lower floor, that would be.
Yeah, I think it's a little top heavy. That's my concern.
Okay.
Other than that, I know we don't have the view ordinance, but, it will help the mass a little bit better rather than, and I think the suggestion that Mr. Malikian was doing, I think it's a valid suggestion, and I'll support that. If you don't want to make that as a condition, Mr. Malikian.
You know what? Lowering, I mean, I don't know what we're going to gain by lowering a foot. It's not really going to solve any of the issues, in my opinion.
Well, I'll leave it up to you.
We've had a very similar, well, not a similar, but we had a similar condition. Project came in front of us several months ago. I believe it was on Wonderview. And they were proposing a house right exactly the same condition, and that house was literally 30 feet away, and it was almost as high as the railing, and what we told them was that lower it, at least bring it below the railing height or even at the same, just... Okay. So we're, in my opinion, I think I'm, at least at my end, I'm being consistent with what I'm asking, and on this, what I see is consistent with what I had suggested on the other one, being that the proposed height is within the height of the railing. Yeah. For this, we can't tell them not to put a second floor. By right, can. They can do that.
That's right.
And if they're going to put the second floor on the other end, what it'll do is it will create bigger issues, I think, for at least the immediate houses around them. I think the placement of the house further back, closer to the back area, in my opinion, I think it's a better solution on all sides. If it goes further away, I think it would block everyone's view, including this property.
Well, I'm not suggesting to move the addition.
So I think even lowering that a foot or two, if the only way they will solve it if they lower it to 7 foot high, that you will see a substantial. So a foot lower height here and there. I think at the end of the day, I
don't think that's the issue with them, because it is below the railing.
It is below the railing. So in my opinion, I don't think the height. I think the creating that elongated piece.
Well, I was just looking at a design also as far as being top heavy, but
I would still recommend for them to carry that void, some piece that would somehow it's not just a little piece that it's added on to this elongated building. I think it needs to somehow kind of merge into this, and somehow that mass kind of dissolves in and becomes part of the whole thing.
I think what you're saying,
are you going to do this and wrap it around to the other side, or just stop it as like a wing wall?
No. The whole roof.
The whole.
Yeah.
You're talking about going.
And that roof doesn't have to be a solid roof. It can be trellis. It can be whatever they want to do. But
this element has to go carried.
I think it somehow needs to kind of dissolve into the existing. That the new addition needs to somehow merge into that, in my opinion.
Well,
could I also remind the board, another privacy concern was brought up by a neighbor in terms of the living room windows, and then the potential for adding additional screening on the east face of the east side of the second floor deck.
But living room windows are all. They're not proposing any new openings. They're replacing existing openings.
There are windows. I'm just
right.
Just didn't want that to be lost in the
Did
shuffle.
I miss anything? Did they add anything that I missed?
No, there are existing windows, but they had mentioned that they talked to the designer about raising the sill on the two kind of vertical windows flanking the fireplace.
Oh, that.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I mean, if
there are windows on.
Yeah,
the
I mean if they agreed, then that's fine. I don't think
that's not an issue.
And then the deck, additional screening at the deck on the second floor.
Yeah, if the architect has.
Yeah, I think the screening that they've done, the privacy wall that they proposed, I think it definitely will give them the privacy that they want. It's just what they're going to do is they're going to create a mass, and just a matter of getting. I mean. There are no. What I'm trying to say, in my opinion, there are no privacy issues.
Okay.
And
So-
view issues, and yeah, there will be blocking in view, but I can't say anything. I mean, it is what it is. The fence is blocking the same view. I mean, it's lower than the fence, so.
Even the
You really don't even see those other houses when if you were on that deck or even on this floor. The bushes are there. They're not going to be cut down.
So we won't go with those changes, or?
If the architect wishes to
I
make
would-
the change.
Yeah, that, I would definitely go with the change in the window from vinyl to what staff's recommended.
Oh, sure.
Aluminum windows, yeah.
But not with the raising of the sills on the east living room wall.
I don't have either way.
It's up to them.
Okay, so we can,
So
it is
can
a
you-
consideration.
So I gather there's support for the project to move forward. Can you read us the conditions? I'm sorry, it's closed, Mr. Morning.
I will go back through the conditions. A couple I jotted down during the beginning of the discussion, just to show gutters and downspouts on the elevation drawings to make sure they're harmonious with the facade designs. Correct the siding at the garage base to reflect the, as shown on the elevations, with the horizontal siding. A condition to not remove any of the plant material that's on the existing hillside that's currently there as of today.
I would also add to that to install jute mesh on those vertical areas.
Install jute mesh. And would that be the vertical areas behind
Almost
the house
entire
or
hillside.
everywhere? Okay.
Almost the entire hillside.
Okay. There was a condition to build a slough wall along Cascadia, 12 inches.
Suggestion,
Okay, consideration.
yes.
Okay. The jute is a consideration or
A what?
condition for the jute mesh? Is that a condition?
But I think that should be a condition.
Okay. A condition to redesign the front entry to provide more shelter above the entry door. Per Board Member Malikian's comments, was there concurrence about moving an additional L-shaped frame to the east end of the deck?
That's just a
Or is that a consideration?
consideration.
Consider,
So Mardian, about the height.
Yeah.
That's everything I have.
No, was it about a design issue, the massing?
Oh, definitely will help, definitely
It
will help. I
The
mean, if
reason
that's what
it's not
it's
so much about
the
you
view
know,
or
the view,
the projection, okay.
Because the way it's tilted right now, and I was
Mhm.
out there, and the way the neighbor's house is situated is really not right. It's not really the back of it. It's on the side of it. But I leave that 1 foot or two for you to decide, and because obviously I see Commissioner Palmer doesn't. 1
Well,
foot is not going to.
I think if it continues out, it's going to look lower.
If it continues out.
If it continues out. If they don't, I mean, I would leave it up to the architect. I'm not.
So a quick question from the architect, if I have one quick question.
I open it up. I have to
Just
open
one
up
quick
somebody.
question.
Okay, we'll open it up. Mr. Pierre?
Yes, please. So on your B section, you're showing 9'6" from slab to the top of the roof. Right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And on section B, you're showing 9'6" from slab to the. Is that to the 9'6" is to the bottom of the
No, that's
existing,
top of the roof.
or bottom of the new structure, so it's sitting on top of the existing roof?
Sitting
Is that
on
what
top
you're
of
saying?
exactly.
So what is the interior height
For this-
of the existing?
For the second floor.
No, no,
For the
the
existing.
first floor.
It's about 8 feet 6.
8.6, yeah.
Eight,
Say,
say 8.6?
Yes. Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, so right now, they're proposing 9'6" on the interior of the master bedroom.
Then the garage is a little higher because it
Garage
sits on
is
the pad.
sitting on top. So, here's,
Lower than.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think bringing that down, either lower the garage height so that you have a step from the landing up to the deck level. You can still put the deck on top of the roof. So by lowering that, and you can maintain the 9'6", or keep the way the design you have and lower your master bedroom to 8'6".
So it'll be an either or, reduce the floor-to-ceiling height of the garage, or reduce the
It's up
floor-to-ceiling
to
of the
them.
bedroom by
Yeah.
approximately 1
Right.
foot?
Right. No, well, I mean, I'll just leave this, so.
The ultimate to get the whole thing down.
Right. Oh, so, or to reduce both?
Yeah, if they want to have the height, so they'll lower this to 9, just do exactly what they have here.
Mhm.
Bring this down to 8'6".
By lowering the garage height.
Right. So they'll lower this. Or if they need the height, they can keep the garage height lower, and the landing can be at this level, and then they have a step going up to the deck. So they can still have the deck on top of their existing roof, which is fine. And basically, they'll have either an 8'6" or 9'6", whatever. But the idea is that they'll lower the roof.
The roof height is going to come
Right.
down approximately
Right.
a foot through various
Right.
means.
Yeah.
And we're doing that to enhance the proportional relationship
I
of
think
the
so.
second
I
floor
think
to the
that's what I'm trying to achieve. I'm
Okay.
trying to achieve the proportion. I think it's too plunked
on
onto
top,
the
yeah.
side. I think it's
'Cause it's
narrow,
such a
it's like
narrow little
longer. I
piece.
think it'll just merge into the existing house much better.
And maybe he doesn't have to do what you were
Yeah,
telling
whatever.
him to do.
Yeah,
That was just a suggestion.
that was just a suggestion.
Oh, that's not a condition?
It is a condition.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay.
And then in terms of the two considerations, the east living room windows, raising the sills is a consideration, and also additional screening along the east side, if the architects agree to that, would be a consideration? Okay.
And
So should we give an actual height that we want to, because it's 11.2? Do we give an actual number? Or do we,
Reduce a foot.
For
the ceiling right now, it's 9'6". Inside,
We
9'6".
just say to reduce the overall by a foot, however they choose to do so.
Okay.
yeah, that's probably easiest,
Yeah.
and then they can.
Yeah, so this way they can figure out what.
Yeah, so I've got reduce roof height at the garage addition, the new construction, by approximately 1 foot to enhance the proportional relationship between the addition and the existing house.
Okay.
And I'll move to approve the project with.
And I'll second it.
conditions. If you want to go over the conditions one more time, or you're okay?
I've got them.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, roll call, please.
I have a motion by Board Member Malikian and a second by Board Member Palmer. Board Member Palmer?
Yes.
Board Member Malikian?
Yes.
Chairman Mardian?
Yes.
The motion passes to approve with conditions.
Thank you.
10 minutes, too.
Okay,
Did we cover the siding, right? We did cover.
and we did cover, yes, the siding was included. Okay, so I'm not sure if Mr. Simonian would like to come back up so that he can vote on the minutes or not. But we have two sets of minutes. The first being from the Special Design Review Board meeting on January the 29th. This was in regards to the Chevy Chase Country Club. And all 5 board members were present.
No, on the Chevy Chase Country.
Chevy Chase, he can't be here? You can't
No, they
Art and I
we had
can't.
two
We
You have to
recusals.
continue that.
continue the Chevy Chase one.
Oh, that's
had to
right, because
recuse
you were
ourselves.
recusing yourself. Okay, so we'll go ahead and, thank you. That would be, well, actually, if there were two, if there were two of you, since it's 2 and 4, we could essentially have Board Member Malikian and Board Member Mardian vote on those.
All right.
It's up to you.
Don't you need three? Well,
Don't you need 3 or
you
2?
just continue.
Why don't we just go ahead and, we'll continue that to the next date. And then we also have the meeting minutes from February the 12th. Board Member Palmer, Simonian, and Mardian were present.
I move to approve those.
Second those.
I have a motion by Board Member Palmer, a second by Board Member Simonian. In terms of a roll call, Board Member Palmer?
Yes.
Board Member Simonian?
Yes.
Chairman Mardian?
Yes.
The motion to approve the minutes was passed 3-0. We have no other items on tonight's agenda. Mr. Platt, any last-minute staff announcements? Nothing. So is there a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:30?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Yeah, pass it down.
Hey Glendale friends, it's Jeannie Mai here, fashion correspondent on the Today Show and Style Network host, here to remind you that some things never go out of style, like that drop-dead red dress or those comfy pair of dark denim jeans, and voting. So don't walk, strut your way into the polls, and get your voting on as the ultimate way of expressing your style. Oh, and don't forget to accessorize. For more info, check us out at glendalevotes.org and follow us on Twitter.
Hi, and welcome to On the Move, a show highlighting what's going on in your community. I'm Tamar Hajimanukyan, your host. In this episode, we'll hear from City Clerk Artie Kasakian on the April 7th general municipal elections, meet Glendale firefighter Gabriel Vaca, hear an economic update from Mayor Zara Sinanian, check out the police department's new online traffic accident report system, learn more about the upcoming Cesar Chavez event, and see how you can submit an application for summer youth employment. Every 2 years, the City of Glendale holds a general municipal election. Here to explain what's coming up on the April 7th ballot and how to register to vote is Glendale City Clerk Artie Kasakian.
Hi, my name is Artie Kasakian, your Glendale City Clerk and City Elections official, here to remind you to vote on Tuesday, April 7th, 2015, in the upcoming Glendale municipal election. This election, you'll be able to vote for 2 seats for City Council, 2 for College Board of Trustees, and 2 for Glendale Unified School Board. You'll also be able to make your voice heard on a number of important measures. Be sure to register to vote if you haven't already registered. The deadline is March 23rd to register to vote for this election. If you'd like to vote by mail, you can do so by requesting a vote by mail ballot starting on March 9th. The last date to do so is March 31st. That way you'll be able to vote from the convenience of your own home. If you have questions or want to find out more about the Glendale elections, visit glendalevotes.org or call 818-548-4000. Remember, voting is one of our most important civic duties, and we want to hear from you. On April 7th, 2015, Glendale votes, and so should you.
The Glendale Fire Department continues to seek dedicated men and women from our community to join their team. Let's meet Gabriel Vaca, serving our city as a proud Glendale firefighter.
I've been a firefighter for Glendale since 1999. I came here and I saw that I fit in. This is where I'm supposed to be. And the first time that I helped somebody and I saw that I made a difference, that was it. When I first became a firefighter, I saw myself working on a truck. And the engineer position was something that I've always wanted to do. I like the hands-on, I like the technical aspect of it. I arrived and saw that I was working with high-caliber people. Everywhere that I looked, the people were smart and they knew what they were doing, and I had to work really, really hard to meet that standard. And it's nice to know that I've transitioned into the teaching role, and now it's my turn to be able to teach the newer firefighters how to do things right. I'm proud to come to work every single day. I know that there's no one better equipped to help somebody in their time of need than the Glendale Fire Department. My name is Gabe Vaca, and this is my Glendale.
The city of Glendale has experienced many positive changes this past year, with so many opportunities just on the horizon. Here to give us an economic update on the city's health and future is Mayor Zara Sinanian.
Hello, I'm Zara Sinanian, Mayor of the City of Glendale. As my term as mayor comes to an end this April, I wanted to reflect on this past year's successes, exciting changes coming in the near future, and the challenges we face as a community moving into the second half of 2015. As policymakers, the City Council sets priorities which guide the city's operations, programs, and direction. Fiscal responsibility, exceptional customer service, economic vibrancy, an informed and engaged community, a safe and healthy community, balanced, quality housing, community services and facilities, infrastructure and mobility, arts and culture, and sustainability all guide the policies and strategies that are set forth in Glendale. When we reflect on Glendale's economic vibrancy, we see that commercial, retail, and industrial property vacancies are reaching historic lows for the 5th year. Retail sales, new car sales, department store sales, casual dining, and fine dining are all up dramatically from 2013. Downtown business activity with the new development, new tenants, and new partnerships are bringing new life and vibrancy to the district. This energy is due in part to our new streamlined permitting process, making the process to open or renovate a business even easier and more transparent. This same increased success was shared by the municipality as well. During our mid-year budget review, the city's general fund showed a 9% increase compared to the mid-year revenues last year. This increase is attributed to a rise in property and sales tax revenues, as well as building permits and service fees. In an effort to invest the increased revenue right back into our community, the City Council has allocated the funding to a number of programs and initiatives, including $40,000 to staff unarmed park security guards at night, $16,000 to hire and train staff for after-school sports programs at 4 school campuses, Cerritos, John Marshall, Horace Mann, and Thomas Edison elementary schools. Also allocated for was $106,000 for bicycle and pedestrian safety initiatives and $50,000 contingent on matching funds to to help build Glendale's Tournament of Roses parade float. The arts are an integral part of our community's development and growth. The City of Glendale recently completed the $6 million renovation of the city's historic and cultural hub, the Alex Theater. In addition to Brand Library's beautiful restoration and the opening of so many new and renovated parks in 2014, the city is eager to continue with the momentum. Glendale's commitment to arts and culture is shining bright, just as bright as the Museum of Neon Art's Glow, coming this year. Mona's Paseo will connect the vibrancy of South Brand with the Adult Recreation Center and the renovation of the Central Library, which begins construction this July. This past year, the Housing Authority and the City of Glendale broke ground or opened the doors to 161 new affordable housing options for our residents. The Cypress Senior Living, Veterans Village, and the Arts Colony are among the many ways we're improving the quality of life for our community. And we continue to actively seek grant funding to make living in our city affordable and sustainable. Even with our great successes and small challenges today, we have immense opportunities in the future. The Space 134 project is an amazing opportunity for the city to create space where today stands only a dividing gap. The freeway cab park over the 134 freeway will run from Central Avenue to Glendale Avenue to create 28 acres of open space bookended by meeting spaces, hotels, and the opportunity for endless amenities. Our urban design team is looking at real money, $500 million for this impressive 20-year project. The Space 134 project is Glendale's greatest indicator of optimism for the prosperous future. I look forward to continuing to watch our city's growth, refinement, and prosperity.
Accidents happen, and it can be frustrating to wait for insurance claims to be processed. To help expedite this and better serve our citizens and their insurance carriers, the Glendale Police Department has partnered with LexisNexis to make the majority of our traffic accident reports available for purchase online for a $10 convenience fee. This fast and convenient service saves you time by cutting out the trip to the police department and allows you to share the report with your insurance company sooner. Please note that reports requiring criminal investigation, like hit and runs, may be delayed and or not available online. Individuals who do not wish to pay the convenience fee can still request a copy of their traffic accident report in person for $16. The Records Bureau public counter hours are Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. For questions, please contact 818-548-3135 or visit ecrash.lexisnexis.com. The City of Glendale invites you to celebrate the life and work of Cesar Chavez on Saturday, March 28th. This 14th annual event brings together our community to celebrate his dedication to improving treatment, pay, and working conditions for farm workers. The fun-filled afternoon will include guest speakers, musical performances, opportunity drawings, and free carne asada and chicken tacos. Join us from 1 to 4 p.m. on Saturday, March 28th at the Pacific Community Center, 501 South Pacific Avenue. To learn more, please call 818-548-4844. Glendale Youth Alliance has begun to accept applications for the Summer Youth Employment Program. The summer program provides youth participants ages 14 through 21 with life skills, pre-employment training, and paid work experience. The brush clearance